And we're here back here on Open, and Daren Jaime here with you. So glad to have you sharing with us as we continue to bring you all the things that are affecting our borough and particularly across New York City. When you talk about the borough of the Bronx, one of the biggest challenges that we have in navigating COVID-19 is how is small business going to be affected, and what does the future of small business look like, given the fact that we've had a lot of challenges, a lot of things go on here in our borough. Businesses, some are going to be forced to close, some may never open again. We've had that conversation and brought that to you, but we want to have an update and find out where things are, particularly with our businesses. Have they gotten the money that's necessary for the COVID-19, the PPP? We know that those numbers have not looked in favor to the Bronx at all. And so talking with us today right now, we're pleased to be joined by Lisa Sorin, who is the chair of the Bronx Chamber of Commerce, the president. And also we've got Michael Brady, and Michael Brady is the executive director of the Third Avenue Bid. And Lisa, Michael, thank you again for being with us here on Open.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much.
And first, let's get right at it. When we talk about the Bronx and getting the necessary funding for small businesses, number one, we know that did not happen. We know that the city got the majority of the lion's share. And when I say majority, I'm talking about more than 70% went to Manhattan. I guess with that being said, let's talk about, there were some changes that happened this week. So let's walk through. Greg Bishop is no longer at the helm.
It took me a little off guard, and I know that Michael will jump in. I believe it was the communication and the ability to get out there what our businesses needed. Now he's assigned as a special advisor for fundraising, and I'm hoping what that looks like is that he has the ability to bring more funding and financial assistance to our businesses. That's what we can hope for. Mike, what do you think?
Yeah, it took me by surprise a bit this morning. We had been hearing murmurs about it for the past several weeks, but Greg is, I think, a friend to Lisa and I on a personal level, and he's a very good person. However, I think his departure from being Commissioner of Small Business Services is an attempt by the de Blasio administration to cover up the really terrible job that they did of getting resources out to communities of color and normally disenfranchised communities. And it's unfortunate that they selected Greg to kind of take the bullet for the administration. But I think Greg is a consummate fundraiser, and he's very charming. So I think that will help him in his role of being a senior advisor to the mayor. But I think that Greg's departure means Greg's departure does not do enough. The administration really needs to step up in a serious way of saying, here's how we're going to help our communities of color that have been redlined for decades and have been neglected for decades. And we're going to see what the new interim, or I don't know if he's been named as permanent commissioner yet, but the new interim commissioner will have to do or say about that.
Well, walk us through a little bit of this here, because when the numbers actually came out, right, we understood that more than 70% of those loans that were supposed to be geared towards helping businesses go to Manhattan. You got the Bronx, it's a heavily populated borough, and our numbers are similar to that of Staten Island, which doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So give me your thought, and what does that actually do for businesses that are here in our area?
One, we were shocked, and two, the answer, or what we were told, is the Bronx didn't apply. And so that's almost like a slap in the face, because I think the biggest issue that we have always had in the borough, which is why we formed this sort of coalition between us, is the reach. You have a large population, immigrant mom and pop stores. When we say small business, we're not talking 500 and under or 100 and under. You're really talking 20 and under, 10 and under. And the ability to access funds or have the education or the wherewithal to understand the process and how to capture it, I think it's something that needs to be taken account. And it makes me very angry that when the tables are turned to say the Bronx didn't do their part. Well, I happen to say that's not the right answer. The right answer is we were not given the opportunity, nor was there enough guidance on how to access those funds.
Yeah, I think Lisa hits the nail on the head. I think it comes down to the structural disenfranchisement that our borough has faced, and the lack of support. We haven't seen this city invest in small businesses for at least a decade. But what we have seen them invest in are really not things that support small businesses. They've been opening up new homeless shelters in commercial corridors. They've been opening up new clinics in commercial corridors. And not to say that these public health and human services are not important. They are very important. However, I think are proponents of the fair share. The Bronx has taken on this burden for over 50 years. It's time for other boroughs to step up and take their fair share. I just don't think we can tolerate it anymore.
Yeah, I want to walk through a little bit more of some of the disconnect that's going on. I know that particularly the New York City Council has also had some legislation that's out there. Some people thought about the legislation and said, hey, this legislation is really good. But when we really start to break down what that legislation really means by way of businesses in the borough of the Bronx, I know that you guys have some concerns. So let's talk a little bit about the legislation and what's really not being said. So Lisa, I'll let you take it away, because she is shaking her head like, yeah, Daren, yeah, I got so much on this.
It is, and I think I did a small little clip. I do these small clips on the chamber site just to give a 2-minute update on issues. The city council is using this opportunity to set forth an agenda that we were literally fighting before. I just think it has a new name to it. They are saying the essential workers hazard pay, essential worker just cause, the essential worker sick pay. Look, I think the use of an essential worker in this case is being used inappropriately and disrespectful, because businesses, boroughs, individuals, and residents absolutely support our essential workers. We are so grateful to them, and we will provide for them and do for them anything that they need, because at the end of the day, they are our frontline workers. That being said, if now we're going to get more mandates from the city of New York to say, pay them more. Okay, well, tell us where that money's coming from. Where exactly do you want us to pay them more? On the backs of what? If there's no income and there's nothing, no money to be pulled from, exactly where do they want it to do from? Just cause. You're not allowed to fire unless you go through arbitration. At one point, the state had attempted to do a bill like that. They called it the lien bill. And, essentially, my words to it, and it may sound harsh, but it's basically giving the opportunity to employees to hold hostage the employer. Because I think, yes, bad apples, absolutely. And we all can take the hit because there's a few people who aren't doing right by their employees. But on average, majority, there has not been a business that hasn't come forth and said, how do we do more for our employees with little? Right. But the city of New York consistently is putting down more mandates and more mandates, expecting the businesses to carry these financial burdens. Well, I don't know if rumored or unofficially, they're talking about almost 40% of our businesses in the Bronx, and Mike can jump in, of not opening. Now, on top of that, you're saying essential workers need more hazard pay. These individuals are working, and we are treating them to the best of our ability. And we work as business representatives to make sure that our businesses and our essential workers have what they need. And if businesses don't, we try to find them. So this is just an excuse to push forth an agenda that was there before, and they're using the word essential workers as a way to push this through. And that's actually, talk about, to Mike's point, anti-business. That's anti-business.
Yeah, Mike, I want you to jump in here, but I also want you to also address, because I only got about 2 minutes left. I want you to talk about your budget, because I know that 60% of the Third Avenue bid assessment is going towards sanitation. So jump on what Lisa said, but also give a little bit about that.
Sure. I think that, the economic disparities, and to Lisa's point, the hazard pay bill, and that is not just impacting small business, it's impacting nonprofits, it's impacting healthcare systems, it's impacting the city of New York. And what we hear from the city council is, well, we know we can't afford it as a city, but we expect businesses to figure out a path forward to be able to afford it. So you're telling me if the largest city in the United States can't afford it, small businesses can? Quite frankly, it's just bullshit. Secondarily, getting back onto the weight that's going into our nonprofits, the city has essentially said that nonprofits cannot bill on their city contracts for any services provided after March 15th or March 23rd. They're going back on the date.
March 22nd, correct.
So our nonprofits are already put at a loss, and you have organizations like the Third Avenue Bid understanding the public health problem associated with COVID-19. We've increased our sanitation budget to now being 60% of our operating budget because the city of New York does not have the wherewithal or the resources to ensure that our commercial district remains clean and disinfected. We've seen them drop the ball with MTA cleaning. We've seen them drop the ball time and time again with regular sanitation pickups. It's just getting to the point now where the city of New York has set out a path of unfunded mandates that they're expecting everyone to pay for except for themselves. And that is just intolerable.
Yeah. Well, Mike, Lisa, we got to leave it there, but certainly got to bring you back. We want to talk more about this. We want to talk more about the fact that the Bronx has definitely been pushed to the side, discriminated against, all the other adjectives that you want to bring when it comes to the area of business. And we need our businesses, and there's no question about it. But thank you for being on the front line and having that conversation. We're going to continue to bring more information to our Bronxites and New York City. And for those of you that are watching in New York City, look, no offense, but the truth of the matter is that when it comes down to equity and being equality, the Bronx is definitely not seeing all that it needs to see. And we gotta call it out. So Lisa, Mike, thanks a lot.
Thank
we'll be back with more open. Yeah, thank you. And we'll be back with more open. Want you to stay with us. We got more show coming up right after this.